Hi friends, I'm Annie F. Downs. I had the honor of sitting down with Carolyn Weber, author of the memoir Surprised by Oxford, and leading lady Rose Reed, who stars in the extraordinary film. I think you're really gonna love this conversation. Take a look. Okay, Rose, let's talk about the moment that I realized one of my favorite books was becoming a movie. Will you tell the story?
Oh my gosh, I remember that you had asked, what are you working on next? And I was like, well, I have this project, and I kind of shared a little bit about it. And then afterward, you were like, wait, is this Surprised by Oxford? And I was like, you've read this memoir? You've read this book? And you were like, I love this book.
I lost my mind. Carolyn, knowing that there are people who have read Surprised by Oxford for the last decade, what do you think about them seeing this now when they've loved the book for so long?
Oh my goodness. Well, I never wrote the story anticipating any of this, just really wanting to share how my expectations were set on their head, were just really changed when I went there to study, and actually everything else happened except that in a way.
Rose, is it weird that you play Carolyn? And Carolyn, is it weird that you're sitting next to the person who plays you in a film? That's the question people get asked at dinner parties. Were there ever moments where you're like, that is bringing up stuff in me right now, just watching it again?
Well, she has much better hair.
It was one of those weird combinations where I was absolutely terrified to meet this woman because I'd already read the script. I was in love with this character. I was in love with this person, and I'm really grateful for the experience.
What are some things that stood out to y'all that are really special about the film?
Well, I love the cinematography of Oxford, England. I think it has the most cinematography in a film ever shot, and it is a really beautiful, magical place. But I thought it was a very gentle invitation, and I was hoping that the message would sort of sit gently with people so that it would linger with them long after they left the theater. C.S. Lewis says people, rather than being taught, they want to remember, and I think it has that effect.
This one, right?
Yes. Something that I really loved about it was the intellectual nature of the film. Not only was there this very philosophical approach to faith, which was very unique and very interesting, and you don't see a lot of conversations about that, but there was also this very philosophical approach to romance and to love, and that gave it this ethereal feel that even though it was this very academic setting, it was this conversation about love and true significance and meaning. That's what's most special about it.
We can't talk about Surprised by Oxford without talking about Oxford.
Action.
Carolyn, you were there as a student, and then you're the first female dean ever of St. Peter's School of Oxford. You got to live there while y'all were filming. What was it like to shoot the movie in Oxford?
Oh my gosh, I still say that Oxford was the most incredible location that I've ever shot on.
It still has this magical element to it. The light is different there, and that's not to over-romanticize it. There is something about how the light filters there.
Humanity feels the need to cling to something tangible in the face of distress.
Carolyn, such a big part of your story and this story in this movie is C.S. Lewis. Will you talk a little bit about your friendship with C.S. Lewis?
That's so wonderful. It makes it sound like we hang out and have tea. So when I had actually arrived at Oxford as a graduate student in English literature, I didn't know Lewis as a theological writer at all. I hadn't read his very famous memoir about becoming a Christian himself called Surprised by Joy until after I had become a Christian. So I hold on that title because I felt a great affinity later for his intellectual wrangling, his resistance against the faith, all those things that were really identifiable, and actually wanted to evoke that title in my own later because of his experience at Oxford as well. But Surprised by Joy actually comes from a Wordsworth poem. So it's how joy reminds, that notion that when we feel joy, we're reminded of actually what we're longing for and what we were made for.
Let's talk about one of the big themes of the film, romance and sex and faith. These are really tricky waters we don't see very much. Chastity is not often a plot point in modern rom-coms. So why was that important to you in this film?
It's the most attractive of all the virtues.
Yeah.
Right? Let's do a film about that.
When I first read the script, I saw there was this dialogue regarding chastity, and that was like a little uncomfortable. And I was like, ooh, this isn't really gonna play well, is it? Or how is this gonna play? And Ryan, the director, did such a fabulous job conveying it in a very honest way that it really just was a conversation between two people. And it was this clumsy, awkward, like, no, I'm sorry, this wasn't what I meant. It just really showed her defensive nature and showed kind of the flaw that we were gonna have to get over, the hurdle that we were gonna have to jump. It allowed for the conversation to be very authentic.
There were some powerhouse English actors in this movie. Phyllis Logan from Downton Abbey, Simon Callow, Mark Williams, AKA Mr. Weasley.
More tea, anyone?
I mean, Rose, there's a scene where you are sitting around a table surrounded by them.
The word of the day for that day was just awestruck and possibly intimidating and possibly terrifying. Phyllis Logan was just the kindest actress I've ever met. She was so wonderful. She was so down to earth, and it was really an honor to work with her. Of course, it was an honor to work with all of them.
They're just such a talented group, and it was really fun to also see how they caught the dynamic so well, and the real personalities, and the fun of thinking, and the questioning, and I think also the heart behind caring for people as well.
Rose, Carolyn and I have a very important question for you about the other fine actors in the film. Did you have any favorites who had cameos?
Oh, absolutely. There were these two women, incredible, incredible actors. I mean, walked on one-take wonders. I've never seen it in my life.
That is not true about me. Was that true on you?
One-take wonders.
Oh, Carolyn. Why do you think people should see this film?
I hope people see it so that they will ask themselves the important questions in life, and so that they will sit with them, that they'll be moved in the moment, but that they'll take that out of the theater with them into their own lives. You know, Lewis talks about how people don't tend to have a faith because they don't think it's relevant to their day-to-day life, but there's nothing more relevant.
Surprised by Oxford is a one-of-a-kind film because it deals with faith in such an intellectual way, but it also romanticizes that intellectualism. It's so important to show audiences that intellectualism and faith can coexist, and they do, and it's beautiful.
Audiences have never seen a movie like this. And what they're talking about is your life. What's that felt like to hear people say, we've never seen anything like this?
I hope it is special and unique, but it's not. My life is like anyone else's. We all have the same wounds and same needs and same longings, and yet there's a hope beyond what we can imagine. And in that way, it's special and it's not, but that actually makes it the most special.
I hope that this film has the same impact that it had on me when I first read it. It was this story of an independent, strong, powerful woman who realized that it didn't take away any of your independence to need someone else and to rely on someone else. And so I think it's very relevant. I think it's very timely for this project to be coming out, because we do encourage young women to go out on their own and to be strong and to be the Caros of the first, 30 minutes of the film. And I think that this film really shows you the loneliness that that can bring. And it shows you how important it is to really long for and yearn for the deeper questions and the deeper meaning out there.
Karen, what does having this film out in the world mean to you?
It's incredibly mind-blowing and also amazing to think that something I wrote that was really intimate in many ways between me and God, and didn't anticipate a bigger audience in any way. And yet I think it's a story that resonates with all of us in some sense. We do read to know we're not alone. And I think in film transports us even more so in that way. It creates that experience for us to enter into someone else's world so that we can see our own better. And that's what I pray over it, that it would bring people encouragement and hope and a sense of what really truly matters, that is not dependent on ourselves, on what we can achieve or do or think or study or create. It's so much bigger and more eternal than that.
You were writing it for me too. I mean, I was in that group of people. That book means so much to me. And so I'm just thrilled that we get to watch it.
We're all just gonna cry on camera now.
Right.
Thanks for that, Carol.
Rose and Carolyn, thank you so much for making time to do this, to talk with us and to give us your thoughts, and for the work you have done. I cannot wait for the world to see Surprised by Oxford.